I got 2 coats of polybrush on both sides of this now, and it looks pretty good. There's a few places on here where the tape started to pick up a little bit, just a couple little bubbles here, mainly in this tape over this forward spar. And then we've got some fuzzies sticking up on some of these tape edges where they picked up the polybrush a little bit more. So I'm just going to go ahead and take the iron, smooth these out. And then there's a few little spots here where we got some kind of, I don't know, dog hair or something dropped in here. As much as I cleaned this place up, as hard as I worked on cleaning this up, we still wind up getting contamination in here on a little bit. It doesn't hardly show up, but it is irritating. And I could probably knock that down with the sandpaper once I put the polybrush on, or poly spray on there. But I'd rather go ahead and at least get a start. I'll probably have to do it again once I get the poly spray on there anyway, but we'll get this down now. Always better to have a good foundation and try to make corrections for it somewhere else. I've got that big exhaust fan in here. It's a paint-proof, explosion-proof exhaust fan that I bought, and I've got it sucking all the air out of here, pulling everything out, and it did a pretty good job of getting the overspray dust and stuff out of here. I just swept the floor, and I had very little overspray on anything, very little dust down there on the floor. But I'm not sure that it works any better than the homemade one that I made using an old furnace fan. I just took the air hose and was blowing this out here a little bit, and it pulled in some of the debris and stuff that was being blown down there, but not all of it. I swept the floor with the broom, got the dust and stuff off, and then came back with the air hose and blew it out. But I wasn't real impressed with the way that thing was sucking the dirt and stuff out of here. Like I said, I think my homemade one from an old furnace fan worked just as good. It wasn't really legal according to OSHA because it's not explosion proof, but I've used it for 40 years. Never had any trouble with it. Never blew up on me. This one has a regular fan in it, and the furnace blower had squirrel cage fans in it, so it had 2 fans on either side of the motor. So when it sucked stuff through, it didn't really suck anything by the motor, although stuff did probably go by the motor. But like I said, I used it enough that I had to get in there and clean the squirrel blades fans out several times to get the paint and stuff off of them that would build up on them. So I know that thing worked pretty good. Well, I'm ready to put the silver on here now, the poly spray. As soon as I go over all of this and make sure all the edges are down and everything. Well, I used 3-gallon cans of polybrush so far. A little over 1 gallon doing the initial cover and doing all of the taping. And then I finished that gallon up on the bottom. I had just a little bit left over here on the top. I had to dig out another can of polybrush. I didn't even use half of that. So let's say 2.5 gallons of polybrush. So I dug out 2 gallons of poly spray. I've got an air-operated paint shaker that we bought from Harbor Freight, and I've got it set up down there. I've got 1 gallon of poly spray being shook up now because that's got real fine aluminum powder in it, and of course that settles out. And so you either got to stand 10 minutes or 20 minutes stirring that up with a paddle or put it on the paint shaker for a while. When I get done with this, I'll go get that gallon off the paint shaker and put the other gallon on it and bring the first gallon up here. We got a little bit of a slow start today. My wife's freight day, she got her chicken feed order in today, so I had to go dig out my trailer, get it hooked up and everything, get it ready. And then they dug out the Bobcat and switched over from the bucket on the Bobcat to the forks. Had to go dig the forks out of the tulies. And then we had to go down to the barge company and wait in line there until they got her order figured out. So she should be good for 6 months or so with her chicken feed. I've gone over this with the iron and knocked down all the spots that it looked like it might stick up a little bit. There's some of the fuzzies on the ends of these tapes and stuff on the pinked edges, and then some of the hairs and whatnot that got in here. I just melted those down into the poly brush, so those shouldn't show up too bad. And I'll go over this with the Acryliclean. Again, shouldn't be any dirt or fingerprints or anything on it, but just to make sure you get a good bond between the poly brush and the poly spray. Give me another chance to look over at this and see if there's anything else that needs to be ironed down or anything before I put it all away. I left this can of poly spray on the paint shaker for an hour, a good hour I guess. I went down and got it, brought it up here, and I just cracked it open and checked it. And it is just like an Elvis Presley song. It's all shook up. I guess you got to mix that up, get ready, and start spraying. This stuff mixes up 4 to 1 instead of 3 to 1 like the poly brush did. I'll turn my mixing cup up and I'll mix it up to 5 and into 5. So there's actually less reducer in that than there is in the poly brush. A brand new can there, it's been one spill. Let's see what we can do. Dad? Alright, there's one container mixed up. It's going to take at least 2 of these. I'm just using the same cups as I had my poly brush in. It's the same stuff, not going to hurt anything, dissolve any of the poly brush or anything like that. The main difference here is that this stuff has all that powdered aluminum in it, which acts as a UV protectant for the fabric. The way that works is we spray one coat of poly brush or poly spray on going one way back and forth, and then we spray a coat on going forth and back the other direction. They call it cross coats, and so it winds up being 2 coats, but they call it one coat as a combination of going one way and then going the other way. So I'll put the first coat on, and then I'll have to come back and mix up some more paint to do the second, or the second half of the first coat, whatever it may be. So we put the first coat on, let it cure probably overnight now, and then tomorrow morning I'll do the second coat, or maybe I'll come out late tonight, depending on how much you get done here. Anyway, you put 2 coats of the poly brush on, and then after the second coat, two cross coats, and after the second coat, then you sand it down and get any of the bumps and humps and stuff out of it. And then you spray the third coat on. I've got a new little system here now I've been waiting for. I bought this Spectrum HTE gun, and it works pretty good. It had a regular gravity feed cup for it. I've been using that. The problem with the gravity feed, of course, is you're holding the gun down like this, and so you can't empty the whole thing out. and then you got to clean this out every time. Well, they've got this Spectrum Universal Paint System, which is basically a copy of the 3M one. And I got the 3M gun and its system, and so far I haven't liked the 3M gun as well as I like this Harbor Freight gun. But anyway, this system, you've got a cup there, and you can use it for a mixing cup. And then there are liners that go inside of it. And then there are caps here. Whoop. And then there are caps here that fit on the liners, and they just snap down into it while it's in the cup, and then this just snaps onto the gun right here like this and presses into it. So I just got that. When I bought the gun, I bought this setup here at Harbor Freight. Looked at the picture thinking that that was what I needed for this, but all this has in it is extra cups and caps. It didn't have the mixing cup portion of it and the lid here that screws on to hold everything together. So I ordered that from Harbor Freight, and it was supposed to have been here Monday. I would have been able to use it for the whole thing. Of course, it was UPS. It got delayed, wound up in Anchorage, and a lot of times when it gets to Anchorage, it stays there for a week or two sometimes before it gets here. So I didn't think I was going to get it. I'm hoping maybe I'd get it to do the finish color, but it just showed up here a few minutes ago. So this is going to be my first try with this. I'm going to go ahead and use it so I can dump paint in there. Technically, you don't even need to filter it. But since my paint stand there is set up to hang my paint gun in and filter down into the gravity feed cup, I'm going to have to do some changes. Let's see what happens here. What happens? Be a 20-ounce cup. I was afraid that wasn't going to hold. It doesn't hold very much, but I was afraid it wasn't going to hold as much as the gravity cup does, but it looks like it's come pretty doggone close. Now there are little plugs here that go right in that cap so the paint doesn't evaporate or anything. So then just take the gun, stick it upside down, and put it on there. Well, I'm going to give that a try, see how I like that. But it's supposed to work right side up, upside down, sideways, anything, because the gun will siphon out of that and collapse that cup inside, so it doesn't need an air vent or anything in it. It's not like the gravity feed cup where you can't turn it so far or all the paint will come out the top. And then when you get down low on the gravity feed cup, like I was doing like this, when you get down low here, then you start sucking air. Well, anyway, I'm going to give that a try, but I'm going to run down to the shop and get another new tack cloth and tack off that wing before I start painting. Alrighty, I got my Arctic ghillie suit, my abominable snowman suit on. I got my clean room all zipped up again. I waited for about 45 minutes or so, maybe an hour, and got this acrylic cleaned up off of or dried up off of here. Washed it down with acrylic. And got my poly brush all mixed up. I got a new tack cloth. I'm going to go ahead and tack this stuff up off here first, and then we'll start squirting some silver paint on here. It's actually not silver, it's actually aluminum. Some poly spray. Well, there's the first coat of poly spray done. That's what's called a cross coat. I went over it once back and forth like this, and then once back and forth like this. Sprayed the leading edges first and around the perimeter first so that the field spray would cover up the overspray. So that was the first time using that gun system. I've been using the gun, but that was the first time using that system. And I was pretty impressed with it. Spray pattern was really good on it. I had to adjust the air off and on it. That's probably more a function of my long air hose that I've got coming all the way from my shop all the way up here. It's over 100 feet of air hose. But the system worked good, and I was able to utilize all of the paint in the container. I was wondering how efficient it was going to be as far as being able to utilize the system, whether I could have to throw it away every time or not. But I was able to take the cup apart and refill that same little bladder that I was using. I had a little bit of trouble with it at first because those little bladders are so thin that I had two of them together and I didn't realize it. Once I took the one out, and then the other one was a lot easier to use by itself. So all in all, it's a plus. When I got done, and I just threw the cap and the little bladder away, and no cleanup of the cup, and the gun cleans up easy anyway with just the plain gun. You don't have to worry about cleaning the cup out or anything. So anyway, there's my first coat. Like I said, that's two coats, one coat back and forth and one coat forth and back. So I'll let that one set up for a while. They say a few hours, like do one in the morning, do one coat in the morning and one that afternoon or something like that. I don't know whether I'm going to come back out here tonight and do this or not, or do it tomorrow morning. If I do it tomorrow, then what I'll probably do is get some help, rotate that wing over, and then do the two coats on the bottom side. Between the second coat and the third coat, you go over everything and clean up all these little crap and nibs and stuff that got picked up in there and sand it down. And you don't want to sand too much. Like you don't want to sand on these ribs and where the threads are and stuff like that. But these edges here, these pinked edges, are not picking up a lot of fuzz on them. That happens sometimes because, it's like end grain. It winds up absorbing a lot of material and then fuzzing out on the end of it and stuff. But anyway, it's looking pretty good. So I'm done with that for now. I'm frustrated that I keep picking up crap in here. I should have put up my paint booth, I guess, and used that, but I don't know, I got crap on it when I used the paint booth too, but I'll have to do something different. Before I put the finish coat on, I might tear all this plastic down and put fresh stuff up, put something down on the floor, and put something down on the ceiling. I was hesitating to put anything on the ceiling because that's going to block some of the light out of here. The weather's supposed to change. We've had some really nice weather the last few days. Sunshine got us 54 degrees, 55 degrees today, so it was nice. We got Judy's feed ordered home and everything. Didn't have to fight in the rain. Got it all put away. The forecast says now it's supposed to turn back off and rain again. So I don't really want to feel like fighting that paint booth if it's going to rain, because I got to put it up, and then we got to get some plastic or something and put over the top of that because it leaks like a sieve. It's not watertight. All right, that's enough for today. I'm going to go change out of my zoot suit here, put some real clothes back on, and call it a day.